Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. This is Kim Langling, and I am your host. And I am so happy that you're deciding to spend a small part of your day today with myself and my special guest today, Aimee. And I'm gonna try her last name, Aimee Ravichandran.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh, okay. We're gonna call her Aimee R.
There you go.
She is the owner of Abundantly Social and Perceptive Public Relations and the host of the Author Talk podcast, which I believe airs live on Mondays, right?
It does.
Yes. And I was a guest recently. So thank you once again for that because it was a really fun conversation with you and your co-hosts. Now, Aimee has years of experience helping businesses and authors get noticed on social media. But more than that, she has the ability to capture the voice that is unique to her clients' brands. She grew up in San Antonio, Texas, where she attended UTSA and graduated with a bachelor in psychology. And that's all I'm going to say on the bio because you have done so much. You've won all kinds of awards for what you do. So I want to dig into all of that in our conversation. So, Aimee, welcome to Let Fear Bounce.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. We love having you on. So I'm so glad to be here with you today for your show.
It's fun to switch the mics on each other, isn't it?
Oh, you know it. I'm just thrilled. So it's gonna be fun. I'm excited about it.
So you are a PR whiz. I've always wanted to
Yeah.
say that whiz. You're a PR whiz. So
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah.
so share with me how you even got into that realm.
Oh man. Okay. So to be completely honest with you, I fell into it. I'm not even gonna
And
lie.
that's
I'll be
the
honest.
best way.
Yeah, I fell into it. So obviously, I have a degree in psychology. I was actually on track to do clinical psychology, is what I wanted to do. And I started working for this lady when I was in college. It was like my junior year in college, just doing social media, just helping her out with that. And then my husband, my fiance at the time, was all like, "Oh, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go to University of Houston." And the owner of Perceptive PR, Sandy Lawrence, lived in Houston at the time. So I put that on hold, and it's still currently on hold. But I put that on hold, and we went to Houston right after we got married. And he was going to school. And so I kind of dove in a little bit deeper, working with her. I could meet with her in person and her clients and all of that. And then I worked my way up from just doing social media marketing to vice president of her small PR company that she had in Houston. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, it's 5 years coming up in January, she retired and she actually left it to me. So then I merged it with my own. But she was like a driving force for me. She's the one that encouraged me to start Abundantly Social while also working with her. And she was helping me grow that. And so she was very pivotal in this like fall that I fell into marketing, because that's not what I wanted to do at all. I wanted to go and study the minds of, you know, people in prison and figure out, run different research
Oh.
studies, right? And kind of figure out what part of their brain fires off, why does it fire off that way differently, that kind of led them down the path of criminals. Because we all know it's like you have your upbringing and all of that, but some just kind of switch, right? And so I wanted to more study that and work in the prison system is what I wanted to do.
Wow.
So this was like completely
I'm
left
like that. This is
field,
polar opposite. But you know
right?
what
Yeah.
though? That psychology background actually works very well in PR and marketing.
It does. Yeah, it blends very well at
Yeah.
doing that. I think it gives me it has helped me be able to get behind, especially like working with authors. Every author is different and every genre that they write in is different. Even if they only write in fiction, every book is different and every version of that book, right, is
Mhm.
different. So it's helped me kind of bring their personality to life because, the study of psychology is just a study of people and their brain, right? And what's firing different things. So it's made it where I can just understand people, I feel like, a lot better.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. And kind of a bonus on your end, gives you that little extra little extra something something that other agencies or things like that might not have. And
Yeah.
whereas it sounds like you see the person first before you see the product or the dollar sign.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good way to think about it. I'm not a functioning machine. I guess that would just be different. It's not a driving force. I mean, Abundantly Social is a small business. We have less than 10 employees, right? I also meet and do a lot of the work myself and help others, at the same time. And so it's more, I like the close-knit family environment. Like we don't work on weekends unless you have a launch, right? Because family is important. And so we function and operate that way. And I think that's what kind of bleeds into when I interact with other authors and potential clients and stuff. That's like, you're a human first, and then you're a writer, and then you're a published author, and then you're all these other things. So I don't know. I like to buy from people that I have, like, I relate to or resonate with. And so we kind of try to emulate. Yeah, emulate. Words are hard. See, I'm not a writer.
I know
Em
words are hard.
hard. And don't ask me to spell that word, okay? Because I'm terrible at spelling. But we try to emulate that for each person because we want them to be a person first, and then all the other things kind of come second to me. So that's how we function.
Now, for authors and for however it's played out, the Let Fear Bounce for the last 4 years, I would say 90% of my guests are authors. I
Yeah.
didn't plan it that way. It just kind of rolls that way, which I just find fascinating because I'm an author myself. But I have found that with each author, each one lives in a small part of their own little world.
Yeah. Isn't it
So
fascinating? I
it is,
love
and I was
that.
just, yeah, I was going to me, it's incredibly fascinating because I know how wonky my little world can be. So when you're working with such a vast array of authors from all different types of genres, and you get a peek into all those little pieces of their worlds. I mean, how
Yeah.
does that affect you personally as a person and how you can do your job?
I think it's the most fun part of my job, right? Writing copy and putting up posts and helping create bestsellers, those things for me, because I've done that for so long, it's just second nature. But interacting with an author, or even if it's a new author, but if it's like a seasoned author that we've worked with before, but they're going to completely go left field and they want to dive into nonfiction, you're like, well, wait a minute, you've been killing people for the past 5 years and now you want to dive into nonfiction. Like, what happened, right? So it's kind of one of those things that they keep me on my toes because they are constantly changing. Like, even if they have a fantasy series and there's 6 books in the series, every fantasy book in that series is completely different. It came from has a different background story than how it started. And I like to know those. And I truly get that from Sandy. So Sandy always said, there's a story behind a story. And so it's always been whenever I meet with a potential author or I encounter an author, right? I'm like, okay, so what's the story that led you to write this story? Right? Because there's always something. I mean, I have had some crazy ones where like I've dreamed this and I was like, that's a pretty dark dream. Like, how did you not wake up terrified? You've got like, werewolves and vampires and all this. How did you not wake up terrified? Because I would wake up terrified, but they wake up and they're inspired to write about it, and they have to act this out, or the name of their character in a dream comes and they have to switch and their character is talking to them. And so for me, just because of my psychology background, I'm like, what makes you tick? Like,
Right.
what has happened to you that has made this happen? Like, it leads for really fun conversations. And so I really feel like that's the most fun part of my job, is interacting with them and seeing how all of these crazy worlds, and I'm gonna say crazy because they are, but
Some
they
of
are
them
crazy.
are.
And
Yeah.
we all own it. Okay. I am crazy. I'm held hostage by 2 children all the time. So we're all crazy in our own little way and we all just embrace it. But
Yep.
it makes it, for me, it's the driving force that keeps me going, right? Because I feel like all of us at some point hit a burnout, right? Where it's just like, oh, we're doing the same thing. I've done this for so long. This is just easy. I don't feel challenged. But then I get an author that's just like, hey, I don't want to murder people anymore. I want to write nonfiction and we're going to do this. And I'm like, okay, like, why? Like, what's happening? Why do you want to do that? And so it kind of keeps my machine in my mind going.
Yeah. No, I
So,
get that.
yeah,
Because
I
I
love it.
ask the authors, especially the ones that write horror or like psychological thrillers, things
Yeah.
like that. I'm like, how does your brain go that direction?
Hmm.
Because if mine does, it gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do you not live in an anxious state all the time when you're thinking of different ways to kill people, you know,
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
books. And I,
Yeah.
because I'm like, it's kind of dark. And it's very interesting though, because they're like, most of the folks that I've talked to that write, they're the most down to earth people. And I'm like, so how
Yes.
is it you get yourself in that mindset and into that little world? Because don't you come out feeling exhausted or dark yourself? And they're like, no. I'm like, I don't know how you do that.
I know the only thing I can say is it has to be therapeutic to an extent. Like, and I know
Yeah.
that sounds terrible, and I don't mean it terrible, and I'm not encouraging this at all,
Oh no, but
but
I
it has to
understand what
be
you're talking about.
therapeutic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be, right? I think we all have these struggles in life, and these like deep stresses that we have, or people that have caused like deep hurt or stress. And I feel like when you encounter a writer that writes in that genre and you are one of those people that have caused that, you're gonna wind up dead in a book. Like you have to be okay with it,
You have to
but
be
it's like it's just therapeutic in a sense. And so if that's their form of therapy, they're not acting it out in the real world, I'm
right,
all
right.
I'm go for it. If it makes you a happier person, I'm here for it. I'll
Yeah,
read
I've
it.
always been actually in awe of folks like, Stephen King. I'm
Yeah.
like, how does
Oh
his
yeah.
brain,
If I could study his brain while he was writing,
could
oh
you
my
imagine?
gosh. I don't know what would fire off, but it would probably be awesome.
I know.
It would just be so cool.
Yeah, I don't, and I even, and everybody has dark thoughts. I just don't think
Yeah.
that I could ever write them down and put it into a story. I'm more of, I write nonfiction, but I
Yeah.
have a fiction story in my brain and it's been there for a long time, years. And I know
See,
I
you're
need,
switching. You're switching. Why are we switching?
I don't know, but mine's all about wood sprites and fairies that live in the trees.
Yeah. I love that
And it's
though.
all gentle.
Yeah. I love that though. Like I feel
I
like
know what
we
they look
need
like. I
those.
know what they sound like. A couple of them have Irish accents, so they
Okay.
chit chat every once in a while and they're becoming louder. So I'm like, I think I'm supposed to start actually putting that down on paper. It's been in
Yeah.
my head for like 5 years.
See, your characters are talking to you.
They just
See,
started, yeah.
they're
And I'm
tired of
going,
being
now I know
ignored.
what the authors, when they tell me my characters won't leave me alone, now I know what they're talking about because I get
Yeah.
these little whispers and little Irish accents saying, we're still out here. Why aren't you talking to us?
Yeah. What happened? Okay. Do not forget about us. We are here. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I love it. That's great. So, okay. So I'm going to get that book from you in the future and I want to read it.
One of
Okay.
these
Put me down
days,
to read it.
one of these days. So you yourself are not an author.
No. Mm-mm. I've never written a book. I haven't thought about writing a book. And I truly believe that that is because I know what all goes into it and the stress and everything. And I'm just like, hell no. Like, nope.
Yeah.
Like I have enough stress in my life. I'm good. I feel like that truly is it. But it's not for me, I think I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I'm not, grammar is not my thing. I create. Like I am just a grammar vandal. Okay. If you ever receive an email from me, Kim's laughing because she knows. Okay. It's just,
Well,
that's
there's a
not my thing
typo every once in a while.
all the time. Like I'm lucky I can spell my name or my last name, to be honest. That's just English was always my weak spot in school. It always was. And so it's not a strength of mine. And I want to focus on my strengths and not sit here and be like, why am I doing this? And just murder
Well,
myself,
and it wouldn't even be
So
fun. If you're
no,
doing
it truly
something
it
that
wouldn't.
you're not going to enjoy, or you're like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, that wouldn't be any fun. It would be just stressful, like you said.
Yeah, it would be stressful. And I think a lot of it, I think if I didn't know what all went into like this industry and how the whole process works and how every publishing venture is different, then maybe I would consider it. But I'm not, I'm not there yet. I don't
It
know.
is hard and
Yeah, I
stressful.
can imagine
I
if,
mean, and for so
you're
many that do everything on their own now.
Well, yeah, but even, like anthologies, right? Like you have put together anthologies, you've written in anthologies. And to me, that's the most stressful because you're hurting all of these other authors and trying to keep them on topic while trying to hit your own publishing date. And you don't just have a publishing date, you have like a date that it needs to be done to send to editing and then a
Right.
cover date. And like if one person
Or one person
misses it.
insists that theirs is written exactly perfect.
Yes. See, I'm already getting stressed and I've never done it, but I know the process of it. And I'm just like, ah, I cannot, I thrive on stress, but not this kind of stress. Like,
I've
no, I don't want to
done
do that.
three that I like me and another lady worked together on, but the last
Okay.
two, it was all on my own.
Yeah.
And each time, which is hilarious, at the end of each one, I'm like, I am not doing that again.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
I hear that all the time though.
And then here I am
Hmm.
planning the next one. So,
Exactly. Yeah. You
but
thrive
this
on
one
that
will be
stress.
the last one. This, I'm
Oh,
thinking, I
yeah.
got two books in the paw print series. I will do one more to make it three, to make it a series, and then it'll be done.
Yeah.
Because it really is very stressful. And I would say more than or over half of the co-authors have never written before, which is fine.
Yeah.
But take constructive criticism as it's meant to be taken.
Yeah. Hmm.
And and I always have to gently say it will be edited. So
Yeah.
prepare yourself for that because no one ever writes a perfect first, second, or even maybe third draft.
No. Oh my gosh. Do you know how many traditionally published books still have typos? And that I'm finding them. Okay. And I'm a bad speller. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But I will find them. Like
Yeah.
there's in my mind, there's no such thing as a perfect book. That's never going to be perfect to you. It's going to be perfect enough to pass overall readership, right? Because you will have people like me that don't care about misplaced commas or two or three typos. Now, if you have 15 typos, okay, and like commas everywhere, and I'm like, I know these are run-on sentences, then that's the problem. But I feel like you will always be making changes to your book.
Yes.
Like always, no matter what, 15 years down the road, you're like, I need to update that book. Like it's just never ending at all. So you can't strive on perfection. You cannot be a perfectionist and be an author. It
Oh no,
you won't survive.
you can't.
No,
Your
you
little
just
world
can't.
would come crumbling down.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and you can't be OCD either. I have seen that pair together and it's just it will not function because you
Yeah.
end up imploding the project yourself. And I
Right.
think, to be honest, when we've encountered those and stuff, that's the point where we just have to walk away because it's just gonna
Uh,
implode and we don't want to be a part of that, right? Because it's like we're not gonna feed you imploding on yourself. And if you can't take, like you said, criticism, constructively, nicely done, right?
right.
We don't want to go out there and just be like, oh, you suck. Like, no, we're
Right.
not doing that, right? But you have to be able to take that
Yes.
and use it to make you a better writer if it's something that you really want to do. And so yes, herding sheep is what it's like, and I don't thrive in that. So,
I I don't either. But the three of us, me, myself, and I here in my little world,
right.
the three of us just
Make it
will
happen.
make it happen. And
Yeah.
it's to me the end result, and then you have up to, 18 to 20 co-authors that are so excited to
Yeah.
see their story published and in print, and when they finally get their book in their hands, it's just so exciting. And to me that's so fun to watch their excitement and to feel their excitement, like, oh my gosh, I'm actually in a published book, look at this
Yeah,
you know
it makes it worth it. It makes the stress worth it when you encounter that. But
yeah.
then you stop and you think about everything that went into it after that.
Yeah, I'm like,
And
do I
it's like,
really want to
oh
do that
man.
again?
Yeah. But here you are doing it again, right?
I will
And
be
then
doing it again. One more
yeah.
time.
And see,
One
and
more
I
time.
love that. That's why authors to me are so fascinating because they can have a terrible first publishing experience. I mean, absolutely terrible and didn't hit any of their deadlines or, fell victim to a vanity press or whatever. And then they come back and do it again. And to me, that's the thing I admire most because authors to me are just resilient. Like no matter what, if this story is supposed to be out or they have another idea, it's going to come out. Like
Right.
it doesn't matter. It's going to happen. And
Right.
I love that. It keeps the
And
drive
I'm glad
going.
that you mentioned, like, some authors, they've fallen victim to vanity presses, or
Yeah.
they got involved in something, it sounded so great,
Yeah.
and then thousands of dollars later, they still have nothing. I've
Yeah.
heard that a lot. I was going to ask you, do you have a lot? Do you have authors that come to you that have been in that position where they're like, I need this and this, but this is what happened before?
Yeah.
Is that a regular thing, or did it used to be a regular thing that you saw?
You know, So I've done this for 13 years, give or take two, I guess. And I've seen it a lot more recently within the last three to
Oh,
5 years than I had at the beginning, to be
isn't
honest.
that
At the beginning,
interesting?
yeah, because at the beginning they're like, I want an agent, and you're like, well, okay, like they're gonna take part of your royalties and stuff. Like, but okay, if you really want one, whatever. Because at that time, self-publishing wasn't it was popular, but it didn't have the like strong name behind it. So
Right.
I always say like self-published or small press authors are my realm. It's my happy spot because they truly are the underdog. Because there are some fantastically published like self-published books that
Yeah.
are look traditionally published. They're wonderful. But then, every realm in life has a bad apple or a couple bad apples, and then it gives self-published. They're like, oh, it's crap. Don't self-publish. It's going to look crappy. And
Right.
that's not true at all. And so recently, within the last 5 years, I have encountered a lot of authors. I want to say between like at least between 10 and 15 authors that are like, hey, this is what has happened. I have 3 or 4 books. This is how much I have sunk into them. It's not the quality that I wanted. They wouldn't listen to me. All they did was put their name on my book. And, eventually those those publishers end up ghosting them or randomly closing down. And they're like,
Right.
oh, well, we're going to take everything down. And they're out. I mean, we're not talking 3, $5,000. We're talking between ten and $20,000.
Yeah, it's a significant
It's
amount of money.
insane. And it's where, they don't have any money to market their book because they've sunk so much money into this when realistically that book shouldn't have cost them that much, right?
Right.
And especially for the quality that they get, right? And so to me, that's where you know, times are changing. Social media plays a role into that. You have like TikTok is really famous, and it works for some genres, but not all genres. But it at the same time has fed pirating of books, and it's self-published and small press authors that books are getting pirated because of that. But it feeds into the vanity press issue. You have legit small presses that will function either as a traditional function or a hybrid. And those are legit options. Like, I'm not discrediting any of those. But for me, just in the years that I've done it, if you have to put any significant amount of money down and you're not getting a significant amount of royalties, that's not an option. Like, you shouldn't do that, right? Because at that point, you really are self-publishing. You're just using their name,
Right.
right? And you could just create your own imprint to publish. So you're not technically self-published, right?
Right.
And there's different ways to do it. And it's going to save you thousands of dollars. And so I'm always like, if you want to go traditional and do an agent, then do that. If not, I think you should self-publish because you have more control over those things. You're not going to fall victim. You're in control of how much money you want to spend, the quality that you want to put into it, all of those things versus paying someone else to do that. And you don't really know the quality that you're getting. And there's a lot of sites up there now that just have you put a deposit and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then they ghost you, and it's
Right.
sad that that's what it's turned into, but you really have to just do your research on publishing companies if that's the route that you want to go. I'm a
It's
control freak, so I
interesting.
can't do that.
It's interesting. You said within the last 4 to 5 years, and
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that's because of the whole COVID. We were all shut down. Everybody was in their houses. So those folks out there saw a really good opportunity because everyone's
it
home and on
could
their
be.
computers now.
See, it could be. So the thing is that you will have some that have so vanity presses. I mean, they were big a long time ago, like they were, but then like 10, 12 years ago, you did have vanity presses and it had like a name, it had clout to it. But then they started,
I'm sorry.
I know my cat.
No, can you tell me the name of your cat? Because I
It's
love how
Alice.
cats' tails are so.
Oh, I know.
What,
She likes
what's
to
her
be in the
name?
camera. Her name is Alice.
Alice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Hi,
Yeah.
Alice. No, it was fine until just the last, it's just the way her tail's really going. I'm like, wow, she's really just strutting her stuff out.
Yeah, she's just really happy. She's crazy.
I think
I'm
it's
telling
awesome.
you. She used to not like me, and now all of a sudden I'm her person. I don't know what has
Oh, well,
happened. I know. Well, we just own it. We just
that's
own
right.
it. But no, vanity presses, they used to have a big clout behind them, and then more and more people kind of started catching on. They were just a money pit.
Yeah.
They were just putting their name out there and that was it. So to get away from that, a lot of them merged into hybrid presses, which is why if you're going to do a hybrid press, you really do have to do your research on it because a lot of them are just morphed vanity presses. And that's what to me is so sad
Yeah.
because all that money that you invested in that, and then, you come to someone like me that can help you self-publish and put you in touch with people and negotiate deals and stuff for you. But you've already sank so much money in, right? And so for me to go and ask you, hey, like it's going to cost you $3,000 more, but we'll get you the quality that you want and everything that you want. That's a big ask when
Yeah.
they've already invested $20,000,
Right.
right? So it's like, it's always those kinds of things. So then I'll put them in touch with who they need to be in touch with and be like, hey, this is what we usually get. They'll honor that for you. But I think that it's just a better if you manage it yourself to
Yeah.
keep, costs and stuff down. But it's sad. I mean, I've encountered a lot more authors like that within the last, 4 to 5 years, which to me
Yeah.
is just sad because I'm just like, and the thing is they're all first time authors and they're all retired and they're like, oh, this is what I've dreamt of doing. And I'm finally retired and I can do it. And then they're just out all this money. And I'm like, man, that's
Right.
so awful because they've dreamt of doing this whole time and now they finally have the time to do it and then someone just steals their money. it's
Steals, I was
it's
just going to say,
terrible.
basically steals their money. Right.
Yeah, it's terrible. And
Yeah.
when you're retired and stuff, that's like a fixed income, right? And
Right.
so it's just like they're never going to get that money back. This dream has just been lit on fire, right? Like technically it's all charred.
Or
And so
some,
it's
I've run into
sad.
some that they're spending money that they've spent all those thousands of dollars that they
Yeah.
didn't have. They actually took a loan out.
Yeah.
Or
Isn't
they got a
that's
credit card and
sad?
put it all on credit. And I'm like, oh, that should have been a red
Yeah.
flag, red flag.
Yeah, that's my thing. That's why I'm kind of just like that's why we keep, operations and stuff more family oriented
Yeah.
because I don't want anything like that to happen to my parents or to happen to
Right.
me. And my whole goal, like when I started Abundantly Social and when we merged Perceptive PR and them together, it was to be a temporary expense for people, right? Because eventually I want you to feel empowered to do your own social media or to know the publishing writing community enough and industry enough that you can handle this on your own, right? I
Right.
don't want to be a long-term expense for people. That's never my goal at all. And so I think it just nowadays it's turned into certain avenues are just quick money grabs. And when you're, naive and you're new to the industry, which they are the ones that, have fallen victim most of the time, it's just sad because they don't know it, they're new to it, and then now they don't want to write anymore.
And
It's
there's
really
so
hard.
much to learn.
Yeah.
There's so much. I mean, I've been doing this on my own for years and I'm still learning stuff every week.
It changes all the time.
Yes.
And, TikTok really changed the game, right? 'Cause you have book talk and those kinds of things. And it changed it in a good way. It got more authors becoming more, social because authors tend to be introverts and they don't want to be social. And that's cool. Like I get it. But at the same time, it's fed to pirating of books. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
worst thing that can happen is having your book pirated. And if you're not, you don't, you're new to the industry, you didn't have a copyright, you didn't know about any of those and you're told to go get a lawyer and do all these things, that's just an added expense to it, right? So
Right.
you really have to be careful and you really have to do all of your research and due diligence when you're going to publish. I mean, it's a big deal.
So, where can folks find you and all of this good stuff that you provide to your authors and all those soon to be authors that'll probably be contacting you in the next year? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me literally on any social media platform but TikTok. That's the one I don't dabble in. But abundantlysocial.com, Aimee Ravichandran on Facebook, Abundantly Social on Instagram, and on Facebook, on LinkedIn, is where you can find me. Or you can just send me an email. You can fill out the contact form on my website because my just entire name is hard to spell. So I'm just going to say, just go to the contact form on my website. It goes directly to me. I'm the one that will respond to you. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me or, add me on Facebook and send me a direct message. I look at those a lot more. So that would be the easiest ways.
Okay, awesome. And all of those links will be listed in the show notes in the description, depending upon where you're watching or listening. So, Aimee, as we get ready to wrap up, I ask all of my guests to toss out a nugget of hope to the people, something that they can tuck away and carry with them throughout the rest of the day. So, what would your nugget of hope be today?
I heard this when I was at a writing convention back in October, and it has stuck with me, and so I'm going to say it, and I hope it sticks with you because it has changed my thought process. But the lady that was teaching it, she was all like, "You are somebody's Oprah," right? So even when I'm having a bad day, right, I am my kids' Oprah. I'm their cheerleader. I'm their biggest fan. I'm all of that, and you are that to somebody. And so when things get really hard for me, I just remember that, and it makes it where I can get through the day, right? I am somebody's hype man, somebody's cheerleader are important for them if they're having a bad day. And I have my own, right? Like my husband is my cheerleader, though he's not as great as I am because I'm just loud all the time, right? But you are somebody's Oprah, you are important to somebody. And I think just remembering that, it helps me on rough days kind of get through all of that.
That that's one worth writing down on a sticky note and shoving on your wall so you see it every day.
Right?
You are someone else's light. Remember that.
Yeah, that like that was the whole thing for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like that is true. I am that one person for somebody, and I have that one person for me. And to me, I'm like, if that's the only impact that I make here on my time is that I was impactful for one person and I was that one person for someone, that makes me happy. That
What
I
an
feel
awesome
fulfilled.
nugget. That's one of the better ones I've heard in a long time.
I thought it was so great. I was like, my mouth hit the
Did
floor
your
when she
brain? Yes,
said that.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh my gosh. So I can't even take credit for it. Like someone else did tell me that. But it's one of those that has truly stuck with me since that. And it's changed just the way that I view things.
And I have one like that too. And I've shared it a lot on my show that it was actually a therapist who shared it with me. She said, your success rate for getting through the tough stuff is 100% because you're still standing.
Yes.
And the first time I heard that, it was just like you said, your mouth, your jaw hit the
Mhm.
floor. My brain just went,
Yeah.
when you have that one little thing, that one little nugget that can shift your mindset from, oh, I can't do this to, yes, I can.
Yeah.
What
It's
an
all a
amazing
mindset
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, what an amazing thing. Thank you so much, Aimee, for that nugget and for being my guest today. This has been a fun
Anytime.
conversation.
This has
And
been
I would
so much fun, Kim. And to be on the other side, it's so much fun for me. So yeah, you let me know and I will come back anytime. This has been a delight.
Awesome, awesome. So I wish you and your family all the best. And once again, thank you so much for being my guest today on Let Fear Bounce.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
Thank you. And everybody out there listening, thank you so much for joining me once again on Let Fear Bounce. Remember, every Wednesday, a new episode is uploaded YouTube and on all the different listening platforms. I am Kim Langling, your host of Let Fear Bounce. Everybody be well, stay well, and above all, be blessed. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Let Fear Bounce. Your time is precious, and I am so grateful that you chose to spend just a small part of it with myself and my guest today. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our weekly nuggets of hope and inspiration. And remember, folks, let fear bounce because you've got this. So until next time, folks, keep your light shining bright.